man you're about to meet served 17 years in the National Guard, the last 3 in the Air Guard. He got hurt and expected help. Instead, he got branded a troublemaker. Feeling as alone as the American flag in his front yard, Chad Nelson tries to battle an organization
they didn't even make a decision timely,
where no one is supposed to be left behind.
That's what is so mentally and emotionally tearing about this. No one gets left behind. No one gets, falls through the cracks.
His dad, Jerry, tries to help, talking to anyone who will listen. And for a long while, a fellow injured guardsman did what she could.
He was hurt, and they're screwing him over.
Ginny Sieben is a retired Air Force colonel and lawyer. She and Nelson were injured while serving in the Minnesota Air National Guard. It was 2004. Many of the part-time Guard were called up on active duty to fight in Iraq. Nelson, a licensed airframe mechanic, was on active duty training to work on airplanes called C-130s. He was stationed in Texas when he was hit by a truck and hurt his shoulder, elbow, and knee.
I sit here very humble in that it, could have been much worse.
Sieben was hurt in Iraq, suffering brain and spinal injuries. She is in constant pain and can barely throw a ball for her dogs.
Oh, good boy.
Nelson knows his injuries are not glamorous. He has no war stories to tell his buddies, but hurt is hurt, and fair is fair.
When I was injured, the air and the attitude was the same that Chad faced, because we were injured at the same time. We just happened to be located in different spots. And the attitude was that we were getting something we didn't deserve, that we were trying to scam the system. It was very offensive. Very, very, very offensive.
Sieben says the Guard did not take care of Nelson. Instead, just months after being hurt, this email was already circulating. It tells Nelson's supervisors he's insisting on rights he is not entitled to, and says he seems to be a disruptive presence on base.
A trusted individual on the wing slipped me an email that said, "This is what you're dealing with. So when you're ready, take the gloves off because they have."
Nelson continued to report to Air Wing for weekend drills, but says his injuries prevented him from working his old civilian job. He says he was unemployed with no income for a year, with medical bills over $15,000.
There were times where I was so frustrated, pulling out my hair, medical bills piling up, collections calling several times a day, and we weren't getting things done.
Nelson says the National Guard owed him what's called incapacitation pay. In other words, what he would have made had he not been hurt on active duty. He went all the way to the Pentagon to get it.
I never thought in a million years it would take such a fight and like a scavenger hunt to find the benefits and find the entitlements and so forth.
Good boy.
Sieben says the people at the 133rd Air Wing mishandled Nelson's injury from the start and just wouldn't admit it.
They made a gross error. Chad then became more vehement that he was right. Please read the regulation with me.
Nelson did get more vehement and went outside the chain of command. His superiors branded him a troublemaker, and he was no longer allowed to work around the C-130 planes. He was actually confined to a room during weekend drills.
I was treated like a criminal on my own base, and that's just wrong and unacceptable.
And there were reprimands for showing up late and emailing people in a disrespectful tone.
The letters of reprimand that he got and that they eventually used to prevent him from re-enlisting never happened to anyone else. Never. Absolutely never.
In October of 2006, Nelson was told he would not be allowed to re-enlist. By this time, he'd taken to carrying a tape recorder.
I determined I did not want to re-enlist you.
In January of 2007, he was kicked out of the Guard, but he was not going quietly. Again, carrying his tape recorder, he told his superiors he should not be out-processed without a medical evaluation. His superior said,
I totally agree, we need to take care of the people here, but what you're telling me is you still have a sore shoulder or whatever, whatever you want to call it, but that doesn't prevent you from processing all.
The Fox 9 investigators tried repeatedly to get the National Guard to answer questions about this case. No one in a position of authority would answer any of our questions except to say Chad Nelson had no medical issues when he was let go. We did talk to several current and retired Air Guard members. They said that an enlisted man trying to battle this base is like a rowboat taking on a battleship.
Chad Nelson is the rowboat. He says he learned that when the National Guard put a big black mark on his entire career by giving him a general discharge, not an honorable one, because of a misconduct finding, which Sieben says Nelson was not allowed to challenge at the time.
It was so egregious, I have never seen that in 27 years in the military, ever. I have never seen that. And it was egregious. Absolutely egregious.
Nelson fought back and got his discharge changed to honorable. In this letter, the Guard says, quote, "We apologize for the error."
Currently, my shoulder is really messed up. After the operation, it is what it is. My knee and my left elbow are bad.
Nelson was also successful with the Veterans Administration, which is separate from the National Guard. The VA is where he had surgery on his shoulder, hurt when he was hit by the truck. The VA determined Nelson has service-connected disability of 100%. Part of the rating is his physical injury. Part of it is his mental health.
The extreme abuse that I withstood, that I was that I was subject to, has turned me into a different person.
Nelson says his disability rating combined with 17 years of service should qualify him for medical retirement, which would assure him of a small but lifelong monthly check. The Air Force has denied his request.